Hello, this is a video over the cardiac cycle. First, let's go over a bit of the anatomy of the heart. You have the right atrium, right ventricle, then the left atrium, then the left ventricle. Then you're going to have the tricuspid valve, and then the bicuspid valve, and then that is the pulmonary semilunar valve, and that is the aortic semilunar valve. The first step in the cardiac cycle is ventricular filling. This is when the blood is moving from the atriums into the ventricles. It should be noted that during this phase, the semilunar valves are closed. During this step, the atriums are not contracting, so they are resting, so that's atrial diastole. The next step is atrial systole, when the atriums are going to contract, and they're going to push the last little bit of blood into the ventricles. We can also call this an atrial kick, as kicking the last little bit of blood into the ventricles. Once again, it should be noted that the semilunar valves are closed. During these first two steps, the ventricles are relaxed, so they are in ventricular diastole. At this point, the ventricles are going to contract, so they will be in ventricular systole. At this point, the ventricles start to contract, and the semilunar valves are already closed, but that increased pressure in the chamber is going to close the tricuspid and bicuspid valves. With the semilunar valves and the tricuspid and bicuspid valves closed, there's nowhere for this blood to go. So with the increased pressure, the volume is going to stay the same. So we call that the Isil volumetric contraction phase. It should be noted that the atriums are relaxing at this point and for the rest of this diagram. So they are back into atrial diastole. Also, when the ventricles began to contract, they increased the pressure and closed the AV valves. This caused a sound, and this sound is considered the lub of the beating of the heart. The ventricles will continue to contract and increase pressure inside the chambers. At some point, the pressure will get larger and open up the semilunar valves. At this point, the blood will be ejected out to the lungs and to the body. This is called the ventricular ejection phase. After ventricular ejection, the ventricles will stop contracting and fall back into ventricular diastole. As the ventricles relax, the chambers get larger and the pressure drops. At this point, the semilunar valves will close. That causes the dub sound of the heartbeat. The AV valves are still closed at this stage, and the ventricles continue to relax. There is a little bit of volume of blood left after ventricular ejection. So as the ventricles relax, the pressure will decrease. We call this the Isil volumetric relaxation phase. Looking back at the Isil volumetric contraction phase, the volume of blood that we find in the chambers is going to be called the end diastolic volume. The volume of blood found in Isil volumetric relaxation phase is considered the end systolic volume. By knowing how much blood we started with before ventricular ejection minus how much volume is left over after ventricular ejection, we can determine how much blood was ejected out from the heart in each beat. We call that the stroke volume. Thank you for watching, and I hope this helps you.